Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Anupama, Professor at Department of Economics, Punjabi University, Patiala. I am here talking on behalf of Dr. Falendra Kumar Sudan, Professor, Department of Economics, University of Jammu. I am going to talk about the module Climate Change, Mitigation and Transportation and Urban Infrastructure from Demography of Climate Adaptation. So students, we are going to discuss about the role of transportation and urban infrastructure in climate change mitigation. In urban situation, there has been an increasing emphasis on issues of climate mitigation rather than adaptation. The migration should be addressed more in the cities of the north compared to the global south. Climate change mitigation is appropriate part of a discussion about the responsibilities of megacities despite the continuing international conflicts over what common but differentiated responsibilities might require. The action for climate change mitigation is taking place in transport and urban infrastructure domains. The action for climate adaptation is primarily related to urban infrastructures. There is benefit of policies to address issues of air and water pollution, green space and urban development more broadly. The cities in the north have suggested that self-governance and enabling modes dominate urban responses to climate change. The regulation and provision, together with partnership initiatives led by other actors, are also important. The use of the guideline and provision modes in the transport sector is particularly well known. Urban infrastructures are absent in the efforts to mitigate climate change. The attempts to address greenhouse gas emissions from the transport sector are more common than might be expected. In transport sector, the predominant motivations are addressing air quality and health concerns and reducing congestion. There are considerable side benefits in terms of reduction of greenhouse gas emissions to be realized as municipalities in the global south seek to tackle this most important and prominent local environmental concerns. So, this module aims to explain the role of transportation and urban infrastructure in climate change mitigation, to analyze the governance approaches adopted by municipalities for transportation and urban infrastructure in climate change mitigation. Transportation. The transport sector is an important contributor to GHG emissions. It represents 23% globally and 30% in OECD countries of carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel combustion in 2005. These shares have increased over the past 3 decades and are expected to continue to increase. From 1990 to 2004, carbon dioxide emissions from the transport sector rose by 36.5%. However, in developing countries, especially in China, India and other Asian countries, the transport share of GHG emissions is low, but the transport sector is growing much faster than other sectors. Due to increase in demand for fossil fuels and automobile-oriented infrastructure, it is leading to greater GHG emissions and also deteriorating air quality. Therefore, urban transport has become an important sector for achieving GHG emission reduction targets. Although issues of adapting transport infrastructures to climate change have yet to feature significantly to the urban policy agenda. In order to reduce the carbon emissions, the mitigation strategies adopted by cities are by promoting the capacity and quality of public transport systems, integrating transport and urban planning to facilitate efficient and low carbon modes of transport, strengthening transport demand management, increasing investment in cleaner or alternative fuel vehicle technologies, tightening vehicle emissions and efficiency standards, and encouraging non-motorized transport such as biking and walking. The governance approaches adopted by municipalities include forms of self-governance, regulation, provisioning, enabling, and partnership. Self-governance. One of the most familiar policies with respect to transportation has been for municipalities to replace their vehicle fleets with alternative fuels. Alternative fuel vehicles are vehicles which mostly work on non-petroleum based fuels, including compressed natural gas, that is CNG, methanol, ethanol, propane, liquefied petroleum gas or LPG, biodiesel, and electricity. This approach is most common in cities of Global South, although these measures are often framed in terms of their potential impact, in terms of mitigating the climate change. There is uncertainty about whether some alternative fuels will lead to a meaningful reduction in GHG emissions. Beijing has about one third of buses powered by CNG. There are use of fuel cell buses, fuel cell cars, lithium-ion battery-powered electric buses, hybrid buses, and hybrid cars. The hydrogen refueling stations are also operating within the Beijing Hydro Demo Park. In 2008, Beijing Olympic Games, advanced alternative fuel vehicles were used by Beijing Organizing Committee. The hybrid vehicles and natural gas powered vehicles meet Euro 4 emission standards and helped achieving zero emissions in the Central Olympic area. These vehicles were developed and supported by China's National Research and Development Program, for which the Beijing Olympic was used as a testing ground. In Seoul, the metropolitan government plans to replace government vehicles with hybrids and to increase the number of CNG buses. In Mexico City, there is a plan to replace the entire city government car fleet with low emission vehicles. In Delhi, the government has also introduced new vehicles in its fleet in the form of modern low floor CNG buses in the city, with plans to phase out existing bus fleet in the coming years. This move follows a 1990 order of the Supreme Court of India that all the buses in New Delhi be converted from diesel fuel to CNG. Despite opposition by the Delhi government, Delhi's entire public transport fleet, that is buses, taxis and auto rickshaws, were converted to CNG by 2003. This was hailed as a major success for the environmental lobby. The municipal governments can also try to improve their transport sector by seeking to change the travel behavior of employees. Frequently, this is following through staff travel plans or education campaigns. In Yogyakarta, a more exact approach was adopted in early 2008. The mayor of Yogyakarta passed a resolution that forbids city workers living within a 5-kilometer locality of municipal buildings to travel to work in motor vehicles and forcing them to use public transportation. This approach is unique and points to the potential impact that the municipalities might be able to have on the culture of the transportation in their cities. Regulation, the most prominently and widely used tool to improve the vehicle fuel consumption and to reduce carbon emission, is by regulating emission and energy efficiency of vehicles. These standards focus on vehicle efficiency and emissions for traditional pollutants such as particulate matter, nitrogen oxide, and carbon monoxide, but do not include carbon dioxide explicitly. The reducing air pollutants can have positive effect on greenhouse gas emissions, but this is not definite. This has been a popular regulatory measure reflecting the connections between transportation, air quality, and health. Since 2005, all new vehicles registered in Mumbai have to comply with Bharat Stage 3 equal to Euro 3 efficiency norms. By 2010, all vehicles in Mumbai were Bharat Stage 4 compliant equal to Euro 4. Older vehicles were being taken off the road or being converted to CNG. In Delhi, all new four-wheeled vehicles have to meet Bharat Stage 3 norms for emission control up to 2010, and vehicles will have to meet Bharat Stage 4 norms after 2010. In Hong Kong, SAR, China, those vehicles who are meeting the energy efficiency and exhaust emission criteria can have the first registration tax reduced. In Delhi, a same combination of standard setting and incentives is implemented. The state government provides a 30% subsidy on the purchase of battery operated vehicles in the city. The financial support provided for this subsidy is derived from the diesel tax levied by the state since 2008. A subsidy program is also provided by the Central Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. It was introduced at a time when the price of crude oil was skyrocketing. The government is eagerly encouraging the use of alternative fuel in order to reduce the number of diesel vehicles, which account for 30% of the country's automobile population. Therefore, regulation may be most effective when it is joined with other more enabling modes of governing. Provisioning, improving the efficiency and coverage of public transportation is essential for encouraging the public to change their travel methods to reduce energy use and emissions related with the growth of private motorized transport. There are many municipalities who are playing important roles in providing infrastructures that encourage less carbon intensive travel. Emissions can be controlled by using large capacity buses, light rail transit, and metro or suburban rail and other public transport system. In some cases, the municipalities are the direct providers of such services, and elsewhere, they are important actors in building the necessary infrastructure for their operation. Higher quality public transport system can help in reducing traffic jams, air pollution, and carbon emissions. In order to reduce emission, most cities have made heavy investments in public transport infrastructure and plan to continue doing so. Hong Kong enjoys a well-developed mass transit system where 90% of the 11 million commuter trips each day on the public transport system. Sao Paulo invested $7.285 billion during 2007 to 2010 to improve the metropolitan passageway and other public transport systems. Such type of investments will help to modernize train lines and build new lines for buses in the city of Sao Paulo, Santos, and Campinas. These advancements were projected to have reduced 7 lakh tons of GHGs by 2010, generating credits that can be sold in the Clean Development Mechanisms, that is CDM markets. During the last decade, Beijing has made heavy investments in public transport infrastructure such as buses, bus rapid transit, that is BRT lines, subways, and public transfer systems to improve air quality in order to meet the requirements of the 2008 Olympic Games. The BRT lines have been built in Beijing to link the main city to the eastern and northern parts. In Delhi, the first phase of the Delhi Metropolitan Railway System, or Metro, came into operation in December 2002, and the second phase of the system was completed in 2010 during the Commonwealth Games. This project is mixture of surface and overground trains. During the same time, various BRT lines also have been opened in some parts of Delhi. The BRT system has special bus lanes operating in the central limit of the road. It also contributes a lane for cyclists and improves pedestrian crossings and paths. Bus travelers, cyclists, the pedestrians are reported to be satisfied with the new system. There has been major criticism due to severe traffic jams in some areas caused by the reduction in the number of lanes for other vehicles. BRT systems were also introduced in Cape Town in 2010 during the World Cup. Therefore, global events have shaped urban transport infrastructures in a significant way. However, there is a need for well-developed public transport systems. Municipalities can also develop infrastructure for alternative modes of transport. Enabling. A main aspect of enabling mode of governing transportation has been the use of incentives. Economic incentive policy is one approach adopted to encourage the shift to the public modes of transport. To address the problem of below capacity use of public transport, the Beijing municipal government started an integrated circuit, that is IC, car ticket system, replacing the paper ticket used for more than 50 years. The IC card can be used for both buses and subways. There is a discount for using IC cards on buses and BRT lines. There are price subsidies to increase the use of these services. The price subsidies for public buses and subways are financed by the Beijing municipal government. The Seoul government encourages citizens to travel on public transport by charging a lower price for travel anywhere within Seoul. Various incentive programs have also been used to persuade the use of alternative fuels. In 2000, Hong Kong SAR, China, started an incentive program to replace diesel with LPG. By the end of 2003, nearly all taxis had switched to LPG. However, this may not in fact reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Similarly, a scheme was adopted in 2002 for light buses to replace diesel with LPG or electricity. The use of non-motorized transport is also promoted through the use of incentives in Mexico City. Another set of strategies for enabling the governance of transportation systems relies on information. In some cities, the cities adopt public campaigns to increase public awareness and knowledge of cleaner transportation. China launched its first nationwide urban public transport week in September 2007 with 108 cities participating, including Beijing. A theme of green transport and health was used to raise residents' awareness of energy savings and environmental protection. The main motto of the campaign was to encourage people to walk, ride bicycles, and take public transport. Along with other cities, Beijing set September 22 as No Car Day for one area of the city, which was opened only to the pedestrians, bicycle riders, and taxi and bus passengers. Seoul also held a car-free day on September 22, 2008, which was estimated to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 10%. Similar awareness-raising initiatives have also been developed in Melbourne. Partnership. In the field of transportation, partnership between municipalities and non-state actors seeking to address climate change are very few. Sao Paulo use flex fuel technology, which enables vehicles to run either ethanol, gasoline, or a mix. This has been developed in collaboration with international manufacturers such as Fiat, GM, Peugeot, and Volkswagen. The state-led Motor Vehicle Pollution Control Program sets standards as gasohol, ethanol, CNG, and diesel vehicles. It does not cover carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, or sulfur oxide directly. Between 2010 and 2020, cumulative carbon dioxide emission reductions in the state due to this program are expected to be between 2.6 to 57.2 million tons of carbon dioxide. The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, or DMRC, has registered a project based on regenerative braking in trains as a CDM project with the UNFCCC in 2007. This is an example of a partnership between a municipal government and the international government. It is expected to earn 4 lakh certified emission reductions, that is CRs, over a 10-year period beginning December 2007. The DMC will earn Rs 12 million, that is $240,000 each year from this project, which will be used to offset additional investment and operation cost. Another CDM project is being considered wherein DMRC will maintain CERC for the reduction of tailpipe emissions as commuters switch to the metro. These projects could potentially pave the way for significant sources of finance for public transport infrastructures in the global south. Urban infrastructures. Urban infrastructures include energy, electricity and gas networks, water, and sanitation systems. Urban flood drainage and coastal defenses. Urban infrastructures are important to mediate the relation between climate change and cities. The insufficient provision of infrastructure or its poor maintenance can worsen the impacts of climate change and the vulnerability of urban populations. The nature of utility provision, for example, fossil fuel based or renewable energy, can influence the greenhouse gases. However, governing urban infrastructures is a difficult matter. Often, such systems lie outside the direct control of municipal governments. These are the responsibility of local authorities. Inadequate funding hampers development of urban infrastructure systems. The municipal governments must work in partnership with national governments, private sector actors, and donor organizations to improve urban infrastructure. The issues of social and environmental justice are particularly relevant in responding to climate change in the urban infrastructure sector. The kinds of changes needed in urban planning and governance to climate proof cities are immense. Mitigation strategies include embedding of energy generation technologies in household infrastructure and smart meters for demand reduction. Self-governance. Some municipalities have wanted to shift their dependence on fossil fuel-based electricity provision to small-scale, decentralized, low-carbon or renewable energy systems. In Melbourne, demonstration photovoltaic cells have been built on the roof of the city centre's Queen Victoria Market. It provides some electricity for the municipality. In New Delhi, solar hot water systems have been made compulsory for government buildings. Infrastructure such as street lighting is the direct responsibility of municipal authorities. Yogyakarta has developed a street light management program which resulted in an annual saving of 2,051 to 3,170 tons of carbon dioxide and an estimated 2,11,765 dollars in total. In Beijing, a green lighting project has been executed to promote a more efficient energy-saving lighting system for the entire city. Similar projects have also been advanced by local authorities across Greater Melbourne. Regulation. The regulation of urban infrastructures is mainly through the use of planning rather than the direct regulation. For example, water provision or energy services. The environmental and urban planning covers water, urban green spaces, and environmental health in cities of Melbourne, Mexico City, and Sao Paulo. In Seoul, the planning system has been used to improve the flexibility of a city to climate change and the restoration of Cheong-gai-Cheon River for flood risk management. The main aim of the project was flood aversion. There are other benefits such as biodiversity restoration, decrease in ambient temperature, reduction of health risks on floodplains, and increased number of visitors. Mumbai's coastal areas are also affected by the climate change. In 1991, the Union government issued regulations to distinguish coastal areas as coastal regulation zones, and restrictions were placed on the nature and extent of development that could take place in such zones. In May 2008, the government issued a notification proposing modifications to the 1991 regulations, which would in effect make the restrictions stricter. Provisioning. Until the mid-90s, many municipal authorities around the world have possession of their energy generation, water provision, and waste services. In effect, they provide utilities for their communities. Due to the rise of neoliberalism in the utilities sector, many such municipally owned companies in Europe and Australia were sold during the 1980s and 1990s. However, municipalities still play an important role in the provisioning of urban infrastructures and services. These roles include the protection of existing systems and the development of new forms of infrastructure. Water supply is one area of infrastructure maintenance. that is critical for both climate change adaptation and mitigation. The Delhi Jal Board, the government agency responsible for water supply in Delhi, has anticipated that distribution losses are 40% of the total water supplied due to leakages and unauthorized use. The board is in the process of replacing parts of the water mains because significant portions of the pipelines are 40 to 50 years old. In Cape Town, a similar program of water system repairs is also underway. The plans for enabling action by communities and stakeholders with respect to urban infrastructures are focused at the level of individual buildings. More inclusive approaches intend to reduce the use of resources to undertake issues of poverty as well as energy and water shortages. Rainwater harvesting is being promoted in the city of Delhi. In Cape Town, two inventive schemes have been developed to address the joint effects of poverty and resource shortages. Cape Town was the first city to launch a poverty tariff, where 50 kilowatt hours of free electricity per month was being provided to households using below 400 kilowatt hours per month on average over the 12 months up to June 2008. To deal with future water shortages and wastewater treatment, the city of Cape Town planned a water conservation and water demand initiative. Partnership. Two forms of partnership are involved in the urban governance of infrastructures in response to climate change. The first involve CDM projects, helped through the International Climate Change Agreements and overseen by the CDM board composed of state and non-state actors. In Delhi, a CDM project was registered in 2007, which helps in processing municipal solid waste in order to produce fuel that would be used to generate electricity. The project is expected to earn 2.6 million tons of CERs over the next 10 years. Similar initiatives are in process in Delhi and Mumbai. In Sao Paulo, at the end of 2008, 7% of households were supplied by energy generated at landfills. There are partnership schemes on a smaller scale and mostly involve the private sector working with the municipality to develop new forms of infrastructure rather than in maintaining existing systems or working to improve their hard lines for climate change adaptation. Various such projects are taking place in Hong Kong, SAR, China to establish renewable energy in schools and development of offshore wind farms. The Cape Town municipality has entered into a power purchase agreement with the Darling Wind Farm up to 2020. The agreement provided financial and risk assurance for the generator, whereby the city guarantees purchases for the next 20 years and plans to sell the green electricity at a premium price. Overall, such partnerships scale up from individual buildings to broader scale. The technical, legal, and financial challenges involved in this respect can be substantial. So, students, let us sum up what we have learned from this module. The action on climate change benefits the transport sector. It depends on the planning and governance capacity of municipalities as well as the availability of funding from national governments or external agencies. Municipalities can use various forms of regulation, predominantly concerning efficiency and emission standards, but also relating to behavioral change to address transport issues in ways that could have benefits for greenhouse gas emissions. Municipal condition of local carbon transport infrastructures is another key means through which local governments can combine local priorities and climate change agendas. Addressing climate change is an insignificant issue in the development and maintenance of urban infrastructures. Any benefits that arise in terms of mitigation and adaptation are subsidiary. Street lighting is an important arena in which municipal governments have been taking action to reduce energy and save money. But this requires significant investment. Addressing climate change in terms of reducing energy use and securing water supplies can go hand in hand with development goals of meeting basic needs, but this faces considerable challenge in a context of rising energy costs and inadequate infrastructure provision. The availability of carbon finance may provide a resource that municipalities can use to distribute low carbon infrastructures and meet sustainability goals, but the potential impacts of such programs on different sectors of society will need to be carefully considered. That's all with this lecture. I hope you must have enjoyed it. Thank you.